Historic royal palaces have been working to lift the veil of the public-facing court and explore the lives of the many people who lived and worked here, in front of and behind the scenes.
Saadi Rice, a former royal maid, is now 35 years old, and she's finally breaking her silence about her time working for Prince William and Duchess Catherine. Her revelations have sent shockwaves through royal circles, offering a rare and candid glimpse into a side of the royal family that has remained hidden for years. Saadi, who once roamed the hallowed halls of Anmer Hall, is now sharing her story, shedding light on the challenging reality of life behind palace doors. After 2 years of serving the future king and his family, what led this once loyal servant to walk away from one of the most prestigious jobs in Britain? The answer to that question reveals a truth that the palace has long kept under wraps, a truth that's got people talking and rethinking what it really means to work for royalty. Anmer Hall, located in the picturesque countryside, was supposed to be the perfect escape for Prince William and Kate, a peaceful retreat away from the prying eyes of the media. With its 10 bedrooms and beautiful gardens, it looked like an idyllic haven. However, what appeared to be a sanctuary from the spotlight was far from the perfect life it seemed to be. For 2 years, Saadi Rice worked diligently behind the scenes at Anmer Hall, handling everything from cleaning the opulent rooms to polishing silver and preparing exquisite meals for the royal family. At first, the salary of £35,000 a year seemed like a decent compensation for such a prestigious job. But, as with many things related to royalty, the glitter of the job quickly wore off and the harsh reality set in. Saadi wasn't just any maid. She had an impressive background before joining the Cambridge household. With experience working in the royal households of Norway, and even for Queen Elizabeth herself, Saadi was highly qualified for the job. Her resume made her the perfect candidate for the position, but little did she know that the role would eventually lead her to make a career-altering decision that would challenge the entire royal system. The reality of working for royalty wasn't as glamorous as it seemed. There were no magical moments or fairy tale experiences, only endless demands, high expectations, and a job that gradually consumed her life. The breaking point came after 2 years, when the pressure became too overwhelming for Saadi to handle. It wasn't just about adding a few extra tasks to her already full plate. It was about losing her personal space, time, and life outside of work. According to an insider close to the royal family, the issue was never about Saadi's ability to handle her responsibilities. It was about the constant erosion of her personal boundaries. Her work life had completely overtaken her personal life, and as time went on, she found herself unable to escape from the demands of her job. At first, the added responsibilities seemed manageable. More hours here, additional duties there, but soon, the cycle of work became relentless. The chores at Anmer Hall were already demanding: grocery shopping, cooking, cleaning, and handling laundry for a 10-bedroom estate. But then came the request for more time at Kensington Palace. As the family prepared to make their permanent move to London, the demands on Saadi intensified, requiring her to spend even more time at their new residence. While this might sound like a simple request, it had a profound effect on Saadi's life. The extended hours meant less and less time for herself, and as she tried to balance it all, her personal life began to slip away entirely. For a while, Saadi pushed herself to make it work. She adjusted her schedule, extended her hours, and tried to juggle the increasing workload, always going above and beyond what anyone would expect. However, even the most dedicated worker has their limits. After 2 years of this grueling routine, Saadi reached a breaking point. The realization hit her. She wasn't living a normal life outside of her job. The personal sacrifices she had made became too much to bear, and that was when she knew it was time to leave. The phrase, "not having a normal life," may seem simple, but it speaks volumes about the true cost of serving a royal family. It's not just about missing a few events here and there. It's about lost birthdays, canceled social plans, unfulfilled personal dreams, and time that can never be reclaimed. The question of what a royal household expects from its staff is much more complex than one might imagine. When you work for the royals, you're not just taking on a job. You're giving up parts of your own life, your time, and your well-being in service to a family that demands constant availability. Sadie's story isn't just about her personal experience as a maid, it highlights a broader issue within the royal household. It brings attention to the demanding and often unsustainable expectations placed on staff, where personal boundaries are blurred, and loyalty is expected above all else. It raises questions about the true cost of working for the royal family, not just in terms of time, but in terms of emotional and mental well-being. And for Sadie, the decision to walk away was ultimately about reclaiming her own life, a life she had sacrificed for years while serving the monarchy. For Sadie, the job description didn't mention that her personal time would gradually slip away. It never said the lines between work and personal life would blur until they were nearly gone. It certainly didn't mention that her world would revolve around Prince William and Duchess Catherine's needs. The basic tasks were already tough enough. Grocery shopping meant picking the perfect ingredients for meals fit for royalty, cooking required knowing the family's dietary preferences and allergies, and cleaning wasn't just about keeping things tidy, but also preserving valuable artifacts. Laundry involved caring for garments worth more than her monthly salary. And all of this had to be done with a subtle touch, always present when needed, but barely noticed when not. Royal staff are expected to be invisible, ghosts in the workplace. The hardest part, though, wasn't listed anywhere. The real challenge was the expectation that her loyalty wouldn't just be professional, but personal, that she would always say yes, always accommodate, and always put the royal family's needs before her own. While working for the royals does come with perks, trust from the family opens doors for future opportunities, and the prestige of serving such a notable household can lead to better prospects down the road. The cost is high. This is the question Sadie faced as the demands on her life kept growing. Big life changes often start with a single clear moment, the moment you realize something has to change. For Sadie, that moment came after 2 years of working for the royal family. Her job wasn't just eating up her time anymore, it was taking over her entire life. She handed in her notice, and it seems nothing will change her mind. The insider revealed, it's their loss, hinting that attempts may have been made to persuade her to stay. But some decisions aren't about negotiating salary or perks. They're about getting back what's been lost: time, freedom, and identity. Leaving the royal household wasn't easy. It meant walking away from a prestigious position that many would dream of, stepping out of a world full of glamour and history and starting over. But despite all that, Sadie stayed firm. Her resignation wasn't an impulsive decision. It came after careful thought, weighing what she was gaining against what she was losing. And in the end, her personal life mattered more. They will regret losing Sadie, the source added, pointing out just how hard it is to find the right people. This wasn't just a compliment. It was a recognition of the truth known in royal circles. Finding staff who are both competent and discreet, who can serve royalty while maintaining boundaries, is incredibly rare. Reports say that Prince George and Princess Charlotte were really upset when Sadie left, which says a lot. Kids notice the people who treat them with care and kindness, and the fact that Sadie made such an impression on them shows not just how good she was at her job, but what a great person she is. Now, what does it really mean to serve royalty? From the outside, we imagine a life of glamour and privilege, rubbing shoulders with the elite and witnessing history unfold. But the reality Sadie discovered was a lot more complex and demanding. A typical day for her started before the royal family even woke up and didn't end until long after they'd retired for the night. Her mornings would begin with preparing breakfast, ensuring the kitchen was stocked with fresh ingredients, and planning meals for the day. After that, she would tackle cleaning. Not just the quick tidy-up most of us do, but the meticulous attention to detail required to maintain royal residences. Laundry wasn't just tossing clothes into a machine. It involved sorting carefully, adjusting temperatures for different fabrics, and handling garments worth thousands of pounds with perfect care. Grocery shopping meant selecting only the finest produce and meats, all while keeping the royal family's preferences and habits completely confidential. But it didn't end there. Unexpected requests, last-minute changes, and preparations for special guests or events constantly popped up, each one requiring immediate attention, no matter what else was already on her plate. Everything had to be done with perfect composure, no stress, no signs of fatigue, and never allowing personal issues to affect her work. The royal family didn't just hire Saadi for her skills, they relied on her emotional labor too. She had to stay calm, pleasant, and efficient, no matter what was happening around her. "I need to make this public," Saadi reportedly told a close friend after leaving her position. "People need to understand what it's really like." Her words weren't about seeking revenge or attention. They were about sharing an honest look at an institution often hidden behind mystery and glamour. The physical demands of the job were tough, but the psychological ones were even tougher. Maintaining confidentiality meant carrying the weight of royal secrets, and discretion required constant awareness of what she said and to whom. Loyalty meant putting the royal family's needs above her own. Running a royal household is like operating a perfectly tuned machine, steady, precise, and powered by countless unseen efforts. What many people don't realize is that staff like Saadi don't just handle household tasks. They also manage emotions, impressions, and the delicate balance between loyalty and self-preservation. "There were days when the Duchess would apologize for adding another task to my list," Saadi reportedly shared with a colleague after her departure. She knew the workload was too much, but the demands of their position meant it still had to be done. This rare look into the relationship shows something important. Just because someone is aware of the pressure, it doesn't always lead to change. For every public event the Cambridges attended, staff like Saadi were working double time behind the scenes. A simple garden party could require days of preparation. A charity event meant completely reorganizing schedules, and last-minute travel or official events turned the whole household into a whirlwind of reorganization, with the staff expected to make it all happen flawlessly. The most difficult part of working for the royals wasn't the physical workload, but the emotional labor. Staff weren't just managing logistics, they were also constantly aware of the royals' moods and concerns. When Prince William faced pressure from senior royals, that tension trickled down to the staff. Similarly, when Duchess Catherine worried about the children's privacy, those concerns became priorities that reshaped the daily routines of everyone involved. Former royal household employee Marion Crawford once said, "In service to the crown, you learn to read rooms before entering them." This skill, the ability to anticipate needs before they're even voiced, was what made Saadi exceptional, but it was also what made the job unsustainable. One particularly telling incident occurred during preparations for a state dinner. Just hours before guests were due to arrive, Prince William requested a last-minute change to the seating arrangements. While the request itself was reasonable, it set off a chain of events that affected everything from the place settings to security protocols. The staff, Saadi included, managed to make it work without complaint. But at what personal cost? "You're always calculating," shared another former palace employee who worked alongside Saadi. "Can I take this weekend to visit my sister? Will that clash with their schedule? If I ask for time off now, will it seem disloyal when they need me most?" These constant mental calculations created an invisible burden far heavier than any physical task. What makes Saadi's story even more poignant is that, by all accounts, Prince William and Duchess Catherine were kind employers who didn't intentionally overwork their staff. The problem wasn't malice. It was a system designed around the idea of absolute availability, a system that often treated human needs as secondary to royal requirements. When Saadi finally decided to leave at the age of 35, it wasn't just about her personal situation. She was highlighting a bigger issue, a question that royal households still haven't fully answered. How can centuries-old traditions of service adapt to modern understandings of work-life balance without compromising the monarchy's function? When news of Saadi's resignation broke, Kensington Palace kept its usual silence on staff matters. "We cannot comment on the Duke and Duchess's private staff," a spokesperson said when approached by the press. This standard response reveals a lot about how the royal family views these issues, as private matters rather than matters of public interest. But behind the scenes, the reaction was probably very different. Losing a trusted staff member isn't just about filling a vacancy. It disrupts the entire structure of royal operations. Replacements need to be carefully vetted, security clearances obtained, and training provided. New staff must learn the family's preferences and routines, knowledge that takes months, sometimes years, to acquire. For Prince William and Duchess Catherine, Sadie's departure came at an especially inconvenient time, as they were preparing for their permanent move to Kensington Palace. Having staff who are familiar with the family's routines and preferences is crucial during such transitions. Losing Sadie meant losing not just her skills, but her institutional knowledge, her deep understanding of how the Cambridge household functions. This wasn't the couple's first staff change of 2023. Just months earlier, Rebecca Deacon, who had served as Duchess Catherine's private secretary for 5 years, had stepped down. Two significant departures in such quick succession suggest that something bigger might be happening behind the scenes, perhaps a reevaluation of work-life balance or shifting expectations as the Cambridge family's role continues to evolve. While the palace may not have commented publicly, the loss was certainly felt. Trusted staff members are the backbone of royal operations, the unseen hands that help public figures perform their duties seamlessly. Their value often becomes most obvious only in their absence. Sadie's story goes beyond the personal experience of one housekeeper working for one royal couple. It sheds light on a larger, often hidden reality of serving the elite. Her resignation isn't just an individual choice. It highlights a broader issue: the imbalance of power in high-profile households where loyalty is expected and personal boundaries are blurred. Former royal butler Grant Harold, who served multiple royal family members over the years, offered a different perspective in an interview. "It is the protocol to be guarded and formal, but they are wonderful in such a great sense of humor," he shared. "Off-duty, they are so friendly." This contrast adds depth to the narrative, suggesting that Prince William and Duchess Catherine are kind employers on a personal level. Yet the system they operate within creates impossible demands for their staff. The difference between Harold's and Sadie's experiences brings an important truth to light. Working for royalty isn't a uniform experience. Different positions come with different burdens. A butler might attend formal events, manage other staff, and have more direct interactions with the royal family. A housekeeper like Sadie handles the behind-the-scenes work that makes royal life possible, often with less recognition and more physical demands. This also reveals the changing expectations placed on royal staff over time. Younger royals like William and Catherine balance traditional duties with modern parenting, taking on a more active role in social causes. As a result, the demands on their staff have likely increased. They aren't just managing a royal household, they're raising young children, overseeing charitable foundations, and representing the monarchy to a new generation. The real secret Sadie's story reveals isn't that Prince William is a bad employer, but rather that the institution of royal service may be fundamentally at odds with modern work-life balance expectations. No amount of personal kindness can offset a system designed to place the needs of one family above all others. When Sadie Rice walked away from her royal position at 35, she did more than just change jobs. She challenged a centuries-old system that relied on the unquestioning loyalty and sacrifice of those who served royalty. Her decision to speak out caused ripples across the royal households of Britain. Following her departure, palace sources revealed that other staff members began to question their own positions. Was the prestige of serving royalty worth the personal cost? Could boundaries be set to allow both excellent service and personal fulfillment? Was it possible to serve the royals without giving up one's own life in the process? These weren't just theoretical questions. They marked a shift in attitudes about work and life. Younger staff members entering royal service brought modern expectations about employment rights, work-life balance, and personal boundaries. They admired the tradition, but began to question practices that seemed more about hierarchy than necessity. This shift created a challenge for the royal family, whose daily lives depend on dedicated staff willing to go beyond normal expectations. Yet, attracting and retaining quality personnel requires adapting to contemporary workforce attitudes. It's a delicate balance between maintaining the high standards and traditions that define royal service and acknowledging the changing practices in today's workforce. Prince William and Duchess Catherine, as younger royals with children of their own, likely understood this tension better than most. They represent a bridge between traditional royal values and modern sensibilities. Yet, Saadi's departure suggests that even they struggled to create a working environment that respected staff's needs while meeting their own demanding requirements. The media coverage surrounding Saadi's resignation gave the public a rare look into the usually private world of royal employment. It served as a reminder that, behind the pomp and circumstance of royal life, there are ordinary individuals doing extraordinary work, often at a great personal cost. For Saadi Rice, leaving her position at 35 meant facing a crossroads that few people will ever experience, stepping away from a life of palaces and princes and returning to an ordinary existence. What happens when you leave a job with one of the most famous families in the world? For Saadi, the transition came with both challenges and unexpected freedoms. After years of following rigid schedules dictated by the royal family's needs, she was suddenly free to shape her days as she pleased. After maintaining strict confidentiality about every aspect of her work, she could now speak more openly about her life. Having spent years putting the needs of the Cambridge family ahead of her own, she could finally prioritize herself. Initial reports suggested that Saadi took time to relax and reconnect with family and friends who had taken a back seat during her time with the royals. While Saadi's resume and experience made her an attractive candidate for various job opportunities, she chose to be deliberate in her next steps. Despite maintaining discretion about the details of the Cambridge household, her decision to speak out about the general working conditions was a significant move. By sharing her story through trusted sources, she highlighted the unsustainable expectations placed on royal staff without betraying the family's privacy. Saadi's resignation was never about disliking the Duke and Duchess. According to one source close to her, it was about reclaiming her right to have a life beyond her job. This distinction is crucial to understand. Her story isn't one of revenge or scandal, but one of someone making a difficult choice for personal well-being. Life at Anmer Hall in Kensington Palace went on after Saadi left. New staff filled her position, and routines continued, but something had shifted. There was a small but significant change in the understanding of the human cost behind maintaining royal life. For Prince William and Duchess Catherine, losing a valued staff member like Saadi offered an opportunity to reflect. While palace sources never confirmed any changes to staff policies, the years following her departure have seen fewer reports of high turnover within the Cambridge household. This suggests that lessons may have been learned and adjustments made in response to Saadi's resignation. Saadi's story serves as a powerful reminder that, even in the most gilded cages, people deserve to have lives of their own. At 35, she chose herself, not out of disloyalty to the royal family she had served, but out of loyalty to her own well-being and future. In doing so, she reminded us that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is walk away from something that looks perfect on the outside, but isn't serving us on the inside. What do you think about Saadi's decision to leave royal service? Was she right to prioritize her well-being? What would you do if your dream job slowly started to take over your entire life? Share your thoughts in the comments below and like this video if you found it interesting.